Cool, we're live. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to Author Talk. And today we have Mark Aldrich. He has 4 books out in a series that I just found out about, and hopefully we can get you guys to find them and read them too. Hello.
Hi,
How long
thanks
have
for
you
having me.
been writing?
Well, I mean, I've been writing all my life, but as far as this series and the books and publishing, that started well during the shutdown when everything closed. I my other job for many years has been as an actor on television and on stage, and everything shut down. And I still needed a creative outlet, and I also I had all these stories that had been building up inside of me for years. So I took the opportunity to sit down and get things out, and then I wasn't really intending for them to turn into books, but there you have it. After a while, I saw where it was going. I thought it was going to be one book, and then it was going to be three, and now it's an ongoing series.
Yeah, I see that you have done what I've done with my stories, where you pulled like the main focus of your life and the story built around that.
Yeah.
A I'm a I've been a CNA for the majority of my life, or a um inter no, a volunteer at a nursing home, and I've pulled that in my stories. Your main Mark Curley is a stage actor, and he has a group of friends
Yep.
who he
Yep.
acts with. The Grumbles. Am I
Yes.
getting that
You
right?
you are. Yeah. It's very very loosely modeled after some friends of mine. Um, they say write what you know, and so when I was starting out, I took that very literally. And so the opening of the first book uh, starts at the closing night of one of their Broadway shows where they perform together, and then events occur. They're urban fantasy, sort of magical realism books. So they pull from folklore and legends and fairy tales and urban legends all over the world, and they sort of bring them all together. Um, but yes, I was very fortunate to be in the Broadway company of Disney's Newsies for many years, and I never identified the show as that, but all of the closing night is very reminiscent of what the closing of Newsies was like for us.
That is awesome. How did you choose the supernatural beings, the gods that they come in contact with?
Um, Well, one thing, because I've always been interested in folklore and legends and all, that entire realm. Um, so I had some ideas going into it. I've done a lot of research about Irish history and Irish culture. So that was my springboard, was from like the Celtic traditions. But then the more I researched things, the more I realized that so many different cultures have very similar legends. Like the vampire that vampire legend is sort of translated into many different cultures around the world. It's not just Dracula. And like say Sasquatch is very reminiscent of the Yeti and some others around the world, and the same with werewolves and things like that. So as I did more research, I realized that one of the things I wanted to focus on was that we all have a lot more in common than we realize. So I started to knit those different traditions together into one world so that um, while some of the creatures do come from a geographic region, like from, say, Ireland, they're also connected with beings from Africa and Europe and South America and all over the place. So they all sort of weave together. But that's part of the fun for me is doing research because I love learning about other people's traditions and their beliefs and how things developed. So that was a lot of fun for me. And then I got to pick and choose. Once I did my research, I got to sort of decide which figures fit in with the stories that I wanted to tell. And it also opens up the universe. So I'm never run out of material. There's always somewhere
No.
else that I can go to bring things in. Yeah.
Okay, in the Peripherals, how does do how does the story progress from the closing night?
Well, as after they all said goodnight to each other at the end of the closing night party, which is often a very emotional thing, 'cause, you've been together for years, working side by side, 6 days a week. On their way home, one of the friends disappears. He never makes it home. He never makes it to his bus. And when they find out about it the next day, the friends return to where they had been to try to figure out what had happened to him, and clues start to build up, and it it collides with the fact that um, all of them, including Sean and the character that disappeared, Ken, have been sort of under observation by these creatures, people, beings from another realm. So Sean has always felt like, and we all had that feeling where you feel like someone's watching you, or there's something out of the corner of your eye, or
Oh yeah.
And so in this case, it turns out that that was true. That there have been people watching him and them their entire lives, but things have started to happen that caused them to step forward and make themselves known, because they actually can help with the disappearance of the friend, but they also need some help in return from Sean, because the overarching sort of like the sort of power diagram, if you want to call it that, is that it harkens back to a time when bards and poets and singers and storytellers, even jesters, the spoken word had a lot of power, and they were sort of the wise people in their communities or their countries or their royal courts, whatever it was, and that over time we humankind have lost touch with that and forgotten how much power comes with that gift, the gift of storytelling and music. So they reintroduced that concept to Sean and the Grumbles and the other actors and singers, and they realized that they actually have a lot of power that they were unaware of, and that they can not only use that to help find their friend, but to also help these supernatural creatures in what they need in order to sort of restore balance and keep peace between, well, everyone. So it's really about the power of song and poetry and stories.
That is beautiful. And it changes life daily.
Yes.
Even though
Yeah.
we don't think about the magic, that does change our life daily.
Yeah. Yeah. And we sort of, with screens and computers and television and apps and everything, we've removed the human element from it to a certain extent. We don't there is a lot of there is something magical about being in the same room with someone who's telling a story or singing a song to you, and it's a different experience than just watching it on a screen. Not that there's anything wrong with screens, because I spend a lot of my time on screens too, but I wanted to sort of create that feeling of personal connection and being in the actual space where something is happening, and that it changes you and it changes the people around you, and you all share it together.
I think from that quote I picked out earlier, just by like, ooh, I feel that overarches. Oh, I think the whole book apparently. That
it does.
I didn't even realize it would.
And yeah, it really does. And to take it even a little bit further, none of these characters are like Broadway stars or television stars or movie stars. They're just working actors. So when I say, people out of the corner of your eye, that also applies to them, because they're on stage and they're doing what they love, but they're not the main focus. They're the ones who help set the scene. So they're having a chance to step into the spotlight themselves for the first time. And that's what I wanted to convey also, is that sometimes we feel like we're not the center of attention. We're not the main character in a story, but that we're all the main character in our own stories, and so that everybody has a spotlight to step into if they choose to do that with themselves.
Oh yeah. How does being an actor help them, or the singing and dancing help them get to moving forward? Get to I'm trying to figure out how to ask the question without giving like too many spoilers moving forward, but also I
Yeah.
want to minimize exploring the book. How do they find what they need to move forward? Is there a turning point that you could say in the book where it just smacks them in the face, like this thing right here, this is what I need to help me save them and
Right.
get the uh, paranormal people what they need?
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of a process for them to start to believe in themselves. Um, as it turns out, Sean actually has a deeper well of power within himself than even his friends. But the other the other beings, we'll call them the peripherals, because that's sort of what they refer to them, and but they're from all different, different cultures. They're really from the Fey kingdom, which is why this is so appropriate. And so it takes a lot of convincing.
Oh, yeah.
But then when they're put into a situation where they either they either have to unlock what's within themselves or lose people that they love, um, that's the trigger that allows them to just let it out, as opposed to doubting yourself or second guessing everything and trying to squelch your own power. It was their love and their relationship with the others that they care about that sort of gave them the freedom to change the situation.
Okay, that I'm sorry. I have a little girl. I have two little girls. So my thought was at that point they found the way to let it go and delve into themselves and be who they need to be. I forgive the phrase, but
I know where you're going.
I just had the blinding, glaring song in my head with that.
Yeah. Yes. It.
That is
Yes.
so cool.
Yes. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter as well, so I get it.
That dude, I can't wait until you get to enjoy all the songs and the
Yeah.
creativeness. It's going to be amazing
Yes,
because I
it
know
is.
it has been for me.
Yeah, she's already started to like make her own little stories, and she's interested in Frozen. She hasn't sat through the whole thing yet, but she hears bits and pieces, and she automatically recognizes the songs when she hears them, which is a little crazy because she hasn't seen the movie yet. But she's already her imagination just sort of blows me away, um, even at 2.5 years old. So I'm with you. I'm excited to see where she goes.
That is going to be epic.
Yeah.
So they're able to get their powers. They're able to do. Is it going to spoil the story to find out anything about the bad guys, the creatures
No,
or
I
people
I don't
who
think so.
took their
Uh-huh.
friend?
Yeah. It's again, it sort of draws from different cultures all around the world. There are some native elements from here in the U.S. There are a lot of Celtic elements. There's some African elements. There are a few from South America, although I'm still working on pulling that out. But at least at the beginning, for the first two books, the main antagonists, sorry, are the Doulahan, which is an Irish legend of the headless horseman, essentially, and he was the inspiration for Ichabod Crane and Sleepy Hollow and all that. But it's a very deep tradition in Ireland, and and in many other cultures around the world, which I didn't know until I started researching. So that's sort of the he's the main antagonist, and then there is the Wendigo, which is a Native American sort of can also sometimes be referred to as skinwalkers. I don't think that's really accurate, but it's a creature of the deep forest who hunts and consumes humans and turns them into other Wendigos. And so those are the two main antagonists from book one. And then, as it turns out, they're just part of a much larger contingent army movement, whatever you want to call it, of the Fey realm, who has decided that mankind has outlived its usefulness and wants to change the way the balance of power has been for centuries longer. And it turns out that it's a much larger conspiracy. Not really conspiracy, because once it's known, it's known. It's a much larger movement in the Fey realm. They want to change the rules.
Yeah.
But the Fey realm is also divided because part of it still believes in the potential of mankind, even though we don't always follow through on that. So it's dividing the Fey realm while it's targeting mankind. That was a long answer. Did that answer your question?
That is epic. You answered my question. That was a wonderful answer. That was beautiful. And I am now more intrigued than I was. Oh. And I'm so happy I have it on my phone so I can read it in places while I'm bored. Okay. You've officially joined the people I keep in my pocket. So
yay.
Let's see. As they go through and they learn about their powers and they find out who has him. Uh-huh. And they start the fight. What can we what pieces can we give about the part where we get to the battle without like overly spoilery?
I'm with you. I got you. Another thing that I really love and that my acting career has allowed me to do is travel. So there's an element of travel in all of the books. In book one, it begins in Midtown Manhattan, literally in what we call the Broadway box, which is where all the Broadway theaters are in Midtown Manhattan. So it starts there, but then they end up in Central Park, and there are clues that lead them from Manhattan out all the way to the very tip of Long Island to Montauk. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Montauk. It's for those who don't know, it's a really great sort of old hippie surfer town that's like on the far end of the Hamptons. So you like pass through like this super rich area to get there. Now Montauk has started to get super rich too, but it used to be a place where, you know, sort of misfits and surfers and hippies would go to just kind of disappear. But it also has so many of its own local legends and mysteries, and Stranger Things, the TV show Stranger Things, was originally going to be called Montauk because it was based on some urban legends. There's a place called Camp Hero out on Montauk at the very end of it that used to be a military installation and got shut down years ago. Now it's a state park, so you can actually go there. But there were rumors that there were hidden bunkers under the buildings where they performed, you know, like time travel experiments and mind control experiments. And there's a whole shelf at the library probably of people who have theories about stuff like that. But I love Montauk because it's close, and when you're doing a show in New York, you only get one day off a week, and it would be one of my go-to escapes. I'd just drive out there for the night and spend it at the beach or taking a hike or out on the water. And so they end up out there on Montauk, and that's where the big climax happens. But again, it pulls from their local legends and urban legends and paranormal theories. So it sort of picks up things like that as it goes, and you just continue to gather more information about where they are and the creatures around them and the creatures who have come before and might still be there. So it's really fun. And then in book 2, a lot of the same stuff happens, but it's in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is totally different. But again, a place with lots of legends.
Yes,
and
very much.
yeah. So, and then another place where I grew up going there, because I grew up in Virginia. So the Outer Banks has been in my life for, well, most of it. So I was really excited to do the research down there and pull in things like the Lost Colony, and the pirates that used to, be there, and all of the other paranormal legends that happen. So that's what I like to do. I like to find out about a place, or find out more about a place that I already love, and then pull from its history and sort of snake it all through my stories.
And that is beautiful. Did you take the picture of the lighthouse on the cover?
Which cover? Oh yes, of Red Sky. Yes, all of my covers, the base photos are all mine, and then I have a cover designer who then adds a few other specific elements to sort of flesh it out and make it interesting. But yes, the lighthouse, because I have a lighthouse on the cover of book 4, also a lighthouse that I took a picture of. So yeah, all of those, even book 1 with its Times Square photo, that was a photo I took one night after a show when I was on my way home. So yeah, they're all my stuff. I want to give a shout out to my cover designer because he's awesome. His name is Chris Sorensen. And not only is he a great cover designer, but he's also a wonderful, wonderful author who writes sort of horror and creature feature books. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check out his, because it's really, really good.
If you want to send me the links, whenever I put this up, I can put that in the matter of the show.
I will. That's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he just released a really cool haunted house book, the Haunting of Stars Leap. It's. I'll send you all the stuff. It's really good stuff.
That sounds cool. I love haunted things. Yeah. Ghosts make me happy. Ghost stories. But okay, back to your amazing things. So in book 2, obviously they do the things that they need to do, which will be epic to read, and they save their friend and they make it to out alive. In what happens with Mark Curley in the next book? Not everybody comes with him.
Which book are we in now? Are we in 2?
Well, I'm just saying book 2.
Book 2, yes, they actually
trying to give basic little teasers as we go, give enough about the book to make people want to read.
Right.
So in book 2,
book 2, they do the Grumbles, which is the sort of central group of actors who are really close friends. They do get split up for a variety of reasons. The thing that pulls, his name is Sean Curley, by the way, just so people know, Sean Curley. And
sorry, I don't know where I get Mark from.
Well, no, I don't. My name, I don't know. It's okay.
Okay, that's where I get Mark from. Okay, yeah. Sorry, where Sean? Sorry, I apologize. Sean Curley.
Yes.
Makes it through. Sorry.
Yeah. So Sean and another one of the Grumbles, Dan Trout, who is one of my favorite characters. They actually get a call that one of the Peripherals, one of the Fae, the other worldly beings, has been missing for a while, and he turns up 500 miles plus south down in North Carolina, and he has no memory and he's not speaking, which seems impossible to them because he's such a powerful being. So the two of them get into the car and drive down to try to find out what they can do to help him. And because he was found by the local authorities, and the local authorities are like, who is this guy? He doesn't have any ID. He's not speaking to us. He's basically catatonic. So they rush down to try to rescue him, essentially. and that opens the door to all sorts of things that are happening down in the Outer Banks that plug into the Lost Colony. And there's a wildlife refuge down there, which I love dearly, called Alligator River. And it's the only place anywhere that still has red wolves roaming free. It's the only place anywhere. So actually, not all of, but some of the proceeds from book 2 go to the Red Wolf Coalition to try to help continue to build up their numbers and restore them, because they're amazing creatures. And like I said, that's the only place they are. There are some in captivity, but that's the only place where they are free. So that weaves into it. There's some Japanese a lot of Japanese folklore that weaves into it, and a lot of native folklore. But then the other grumbles are still up in New York, dealing with one of their friends has a different reaction to finding himself with power than the rest of them, and they have to deal with that and figure out how to, essentially, if they're rescuing the otherworldly being in North Carolina from forces outside of their control, they have to recognize this friend is behaving in a way that is totally self-inflicted. So they have to see if they can reach him and get him to understand that what he's doing is probably not the best path forward. So some stay to try to help that friend, the others go down to help the other one, and then hijinks ensue.
Okay. How did you? Is there a Chinese? I don't know anything about the area other than how beautiful, like the various parts of it are.
Yeah.
Is there a large Chinese population there?
No.
No.
It actually came from just the research that I'd been doing, and there were two particular creatures in folklore that I thought suited this story really well. And it was sort of easy to make it. One of them is the Japanese equivalent of a fae fox. His name is Kitsune, and they're like very old, very wise creatures in Japanese folklore. And that, to me, that fit in well with the Red Wolf story, and then also with some of the native legends that all have to, they all incorporate local wildlife and things like that. So that seemed like a natural marriage. And once I introduced one thing from the Japanese culture, I wanted to pull a couple more in so that they had more conflict to explore. And then it's also called the Graveyard of the Atlantic down there, because there's the waters are really dangerous, and there have been so many shipwrecks over centuries, that plays into it as well. For that one in particular, both of them have really, really big climactic battles on sort of well-known local pieces of the landscape.
That is awesome. The Grumbles have split up. One that John and Dan have went out to help the fake creature that has lost his memory, and the rest of the group are trying to help their friend with his issues. What happened for the group who escaped? How do they move forward? What do they do?
Well, the one friend who sort of reacted badly to being powerful, they try to stage an intervention to get him to understand what's going on, and it doesn't go the way they planned. But again, because his problems are self-inflicted, they get worse and worse until he finds himself in a position where he has to make a big choice. Like, is he going to continue? And it turns out that he's been manipulated to some extent, because there are, not all of the otherworldly forces are obvious. Sometimes they are very, sometimes they sneak into your lives and they sort of whisper in your ear.
Subtle.
Yeah. So there's some of that going on.
Is it okay? Is it one of the wispy creatures from the others that is helping? That is, I hope that's not too.
No, it's
hopefully it makes sense.
It does. No, this is actually someone who looks perfectly normal, and you think is just the average person walking down the street, and then they turn out to be not what they seem. But there are shadow creatures who appear in the next book.
Okay, and with Sean and Dan, what happens with them? How do they move forward when they get there?
They have a friend. Sean has a friend who is very well known down in the Outer Banks, a local businessman. So he helps them when they get to town, and they retrieve their friend from the local police and get to work on trying to not only find out what happened to him, but restore his memory and his self-confidence and everything. And again, that's a process, but in the process, it turns out that there's a very strong portal to the other world that has existed in this wildlife refuge where the friend was found. And so Sean and Dan have to figure out a way to either close that portal or at least ensure that nothing evil comes through it anymore. And in doing that, that's how they meet some of the local otherworldly creatures. And that, again, leads to the fact that the Outer Banks was chosen for a very specific reason. I won't go too far into that, but there's a very specific reason why the Fae who are against mankind chose the Outer Banks. And once Sean and Dan and Bayard, their friend, and the other locals that they've met, discover what that is, it leads to a very, very large climactic battle on a piece of land that was chosen very specifically. So it turns out that they weren't just rescuing their friend, they were also discovering that the next step of the defeat of mankind was supposed to take place down there. And that's why his memory had been erased, because he discovered something about that.
Okay. Before we move forward, now a personal question has come up. What of the New York folklore creatures and everything that you found interests you most?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I could settle on one specific creature, but I think what interests me most about the studies that I've done is that every culture has their own version of some story. So small, like what most people think of as fairies, the sort of small light creatures that, stay near flowers and can be mischievous, but the small fairy is actually reflected in cultures all over the world, and I like to bring them in. So they're similar but different, just like mankind, just like people. So that's been it. But I just love the research. I have lost many, many days when I should have been writing, when I just sat down and went down a rabbit hole of wait, I like this creature. Is there anything like that in Turkish culture? And then, 4 hours later, I bring my head up out of the screen and think, well, that was really cool. I'm glad I learned that, but I didn't get any writing done. So.
Nope, but it did help in bolstering the bigger story, I'm betting.
Yeah,
I'm so happy you joined the book club. Thank you for joining our book club.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm always interested to meet other writers, book enthusiasts, all of the above. That's the different people use social media for different reasons. And of course I want people to see my books and know about them, but I'm like my characters, I'm very curious about other people. So I want to find out about them just as much as I want them to find out about me. So that's why I'm glad
That's the whole point of author talk and unprinted pages, to learn, because I know my technique is not your technique, but I can learn something from what you do.
Right. Likewise. Yeah.
And okay, in South Carolina, when you were researching for that, what was one of your favorite things you found out in your research during that research?
Oh gosh. It's so every square inch of those islands is filled with legend. One of the things I liked, one of the local legends I liked, was the legend of the Black Pelican, which is that before some disastrous event, whether it's a storm or something else, sailors in centuries past, decades past, used to believe that the sighting of a black pelican flying by was a sign of something bad to come. There's actually a restaurant down there now called the Black Pelican, which is very good. So it's little things like that, but I still love the story of the Lost Colony, which is, the British settlers who were there, and then they had to send a ship back to get supplies. They were running out of supplies, and then Roanoke, yeah,
Roanoke?
exactly, yep, yeah, and then when the supply ships came back after they'd been delayed for a number of years for various reasons, the entire colony was gone, and it's still one of the great unsolved mysteries anywhere. And there are various different theories about what happened to them, and I put my own sort of supernatural spin on that. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed being walking the ground where I went to where the colony was, and I walked where they walked, and I try to write about places where I have physically stood, because I think you learn so much about a place by just physically being there. So that's what I try to do. I'm sure someday I'll have to write about someplace I haven't been, but not yet.
Okay. Yeah. I am definitely more intrigued because I have enjoyed the representations and the different ways people have portrayed Roanoke in their stories, what could have happened, or the magic that comes from what had happened, or the Native Americans on that land, and what they do, whether it be a good story or something evil happened or whatever. I love it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about book 3. How do we begin the story there?
Book 3 finds, particularly Sean, but all of the actors of Grumbles, sort of worn down, exhausted. They've been through a lot. So Sean, and as it turns out, some of the other Grumbles end up following in his footsteps through other circumstances, goes out of town to a theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just to do a show. He just wants to be an actor again, not deal with all this stuff, get away from it, be in a show, wants people to leave him alone. but that doesn't happen. So
No.
no, it's the Fulton Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania is a theater that I love dearly. I've performed there many, many times. It also happens to be one of the most reported to be one of the most haunted locations anywhere in the U.S.
Ooh.
So there are some new elements that come into the story here, including spirits, and
Ooh.
a lot of it is rooted in some of the real history of the theater, and then a lot of it is also sort of my spin on things, and it was really fun to write. I actually finished writing that book while I was performing at that theater.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's it was the scene of a horrible massacre hundreds of years ago. A local native tribe found themselves. There was a local family who bad guys, bad people. They wanted to wipe out They wanted to wipe out the natives, the native tribes locally, and so the last few remaining survivors of one of the tribes took refuge in the building, which at the time was the town jail, figuring they would be safe there. But then the bad guys found a way in. Nobody knows if they were let in or if they bribed someone or if they just broke in and committed a massacre in the building. That building then grew up around that what was the jail, and became an opera house, and then one of those big old opulent movie theaters. And now for 50 years, maybe a little longer, has gone back to being a live performance venue. It's absolutely beautiful. If anyone's ever near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just go see it, even if you don't see a show, because it's beautiful. But obviously, there are a lot of stories about the energy that's left in that building after that massacre, but also all of the shows and the performers that have crossed that stage, and some of them stay and some of them don't. There's the whistling man who's supposed to be there, who's just in a white suit and never says anything but shows up and whistles. And it's a really interesting space. And the town is interesting too. It's very Victorian in its architecture, so you feel like you are stepping back in time when you're there. And I just love it. So it seemed like a natural place to go. And there have always been rumors of the basement where all of that bad stuff happened, that there was a portal there to another world. So I had to make use of that. So I did. Yeah. So yes, there are some other things that happen in that one that I won't give away too much about, but
okay.
But it's really fun, and that one probably more than any of the others, even though book one opened with a Broadway show closing, that one really takes you backstage at a theater. Like there's a lot about what the rehearsal process is like and what it's like for an actor to go out of town and be away from home for a long time. And yeah, so, and there are, it's more,
cool.
It's really fun. It's got some very like personal streaks to it. I like to model some characters off of certain friends of mine very loosely, but those stories make it more personal to me, and that's where the story starts to get a little bit bigger because more people start to find out what's happening. So by the end, the final scene of that one actually involves a lot more people than the others have, because some things you just can't hide. But yeah, if you, because you mentioned if you like ghosts, you'll like this. And the whole town is supposed to be very populated with ghosts. And so just a little, I'm not going to give too much away, but there are 3 or 4 ghostly encounters in book 3 that actually happened to me.
Oh, Okay, that is curious.
Yeah. Yep.
That is okay. I think my question for that area is, what was your favorite part of the theater?
Favorite part of the theater?
Was there a
Uh,
part you just like to go and just enjoy being there or think there that helps
uh,
you as an actor?
yeah, we're not really supposed to do this, but sometimes late at night when there's no one else there, um, I enjoyed being downstairs in the theater on the stage if I could, although we're not really supposed to do that very often. But sometimes if you're crossing the stage, getting from one place to another, it just happens. Um, and I just like to be on the stage when everything else is quiet and think about all of the other performers who have been there, um, telling their stories. It was probably the the conclusion of a lifelong dream for many people to just be on that stage, and you really feel the history, like you feel their presence when you're there and it's quiet. One of the traditions in the theaters at night, they put a ghost light out on the middle of the stage. um, Everything else is pitch black, but there's this one light on a stand in the middle of the stage. They call it the ghost light.
Mhm.
um, and there are different theories as to why it's called the ghost light. One, they're sort of polar opposites of each other. One is that it's to keep the ghosts away, so they don't take over the theater when everyone else is gone. But the other one is that it gives the ghosts some light so that they can come back to the stage, where so much happened for them that was important to them. Either way, I think it's pretty cool, and it's fun to just be in that space when it's that one light that's on. You really can't see to the back of the theater, so it just sort of ends in blackness all around you. So
Mhm.
I would say that's my favorite in the theater, but there are many favorite
I
places. Space, yeah.
I like the second option of the ghost light.
Me too.
That would be them coming back and acting out again or talking about what they had loved
Yeah,
when they were in one play or another. That seems more inspiring to me.
I agree. The less imaginative reason that some people give is that so that people crossing the stage late at night won't trip. But I think that's boring. I like
Yeah,
the other one.
yeah, that is boring, but it's also utility wise really cool
Yeah.
to not fall on your face on the stage when
Yeah.
anybody's watching.
Yes, exactly.
um, okay. Was there anything else you wanted to say about book three?
Um, no, I think if people are intrigued by ghosts and
Okay.
haunting and history and local folklore, of which there is a lot, then I think you'll find a lot. And I think that's the first one where there's at the end of the book there are some reveals that are really surprising. Like, you don't know where certain characters are going to end up or how they intersect. And I think that I like that part of that book. I like the surprise at the end, the surprises at the end.
Yeah. Okay. That is awesome. Okay. If I'm not mistaken in what I've read, book four brings in the goddess Danu.
The god of, sorry, you froze for just a second.
Goddess Danu. Sorry.
Um,
We're supposed to get rain soon.
oh, okay, I understand. Um, to an extent, yes. It's
Okay.
it takes us off in a completely different direction. It goes to the state of Maine. Um,
Ooh, I
yeah,
love May.
yeah, me too. Again, another theater that I work at frequently is up there, and it does play a part in this, but it's really about um, the smaller creatures of the Fey realm have begun to flee, to get out of the way of the violence that's
Mhm.
coming, and they're headed in that direction, which also happens to be the direction that, again, Sean and Trout and the Grumbles find themselves drawn to. And again, lots of new folklore, lots of local history, lots of featuring of Maine, the state of Maine, because it's just so darn beautiful. Um, and
Oh yeah.
again, there's the idea of needing space and time to heal when you go through something. So there's an island
Oh yeah.
off of Maine where they focus that energy. They being the Fae. So that plays a big part in it, and yeah, and again, there are parts of it that are like were really personal to me. I got more comfortable writing about deeper personal experiences as I went through the series. So I think people pick up on that from what I've been told. Like it feels very real and very genuine. So it was, and again, I
Okay.
wrote part of it while I was up in Maine performing at the theater up there. So it allowed me to research and explore and find all sorts of things.
Okay. What when they get there, what happens?
Well, after book 3, um, a couple of the characters had been seriously injured, and they were sort of beyond the capabilities of the people around them to heal. So they had to be sent to
Mhm.
Maine in order for that to happen. So that's part of it. But also, Sean and Trout encounter a character, which I can't tell too much about, who leads them in a similar direction on a very different
Mhm.
quest, for lack of a better word. And then, of course, they all end up together at one point. And yeah, and then there are more powerful Fae who step in to try to
Mhm.
protect those who need protection, and then it's how they interact with the Grumbles and Sean and and once again, based on a real place, there is a portal to the other world, which is so far removed that nobody knows about it, and they discover it, and it's how they deal with that, and there are a lot of surprises at the end of this book. So it looks like
Okay.
we're going to lose a few of the characters when we get close to the end of this book, and then the surprising things start to really happen. And I'm not going to say if we lose
Okay.
anybody. It's possible.
Okay. That gives me a, two questions that well, it's an either this or a question. When it comes to Sean and Dan,
Yep.
do their powers play off of each other, or are they just best friends that work well together?
Their powers play off of each other, especially Sean is sort of the like keystone to everything. Like his power is strong enough that it makes everyone else stronger. So when they're all
Mhm.
together, they're more effective. And Sean on his own is pretty effective. But part of the process, especially in book 3 and book 4, is the others trying to discover if they can take care of themselves without Sean. Um, so they are all
Mhm.
close friends, but they're also discovering for themselves how independent they can be. And sometimes their powers are up to the task and sometimes they're not.
Okay. Which one of the side characters would you like to, out of all four books, would you like to sit down and have coffee or a meal with and just talk with them and pick their brain?
What a good question. I've never been asked that question. There's the character that I said I couldn't talk too much about in book 4. I would love to sit down and talk to him. I'm not sure if he drinks coffee or if I'd get very many coherent answers, but I would enjoy being in his presence. There's also a character from book 3 and 4, McCloud, who has been around for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would enjoy. He's Scottish, so we would probably have like a scotch, but I'd love to sit down and pick his brain.
From the movies I've watched, McClouds live a very long time.
That's true. That's actually accidental. His name is spelled differently. I didn't mean for it to be that, but I know. And he's modeled after someone I know.
Okay.
He's an interesting character. Is there anybody else? I mean, I could probably pick at least one from each book that I would love to just sit down and chat with.
Pick one from the other book and tell me about that.
Okay, that's book 2. Book 2. Kitsune, who is the sort of the Japanese otherworldly fae fox, who is ancient and wise. I would love to sit and chat with him. There are a few others that I would like to, but I can't really go into because it would give things away. And in book 1, oh, of course, yeah. In book 1, there's a native wise man / healer whose name is Kelfit, and I like him a lot. I would love to sit down and talk to him someday. Yeah.
Okay. When you write, is there like a what technique do you use? Do you write it out with pen and paper, or does it go directly in your phone on a document or on your computer?
On my computer, yeah, and the first draft always takes the longest,
Yes.
And I sort of research as I go. Like I have an outline, and I definitely have like a list of characters from which I can pull. Some of them make the cut, some of them don't. Sometimes I think the book is gonna be about one thing and one person, and then they barely make an appearance. Dan Trout, who I've mentioned before, was a side character. He was not supposed to be in even half of book 1, and he's one of the major characters in all of the books. A big Western Montana guy who turned into a Broadway actor. He's got a big handlebar mustache and wears a big hat and has a big personality. And I just didn't think he was going to be that big a deal. And still there, and a big fan favorite. Like people really gravitate towards him. And then this surprise character in book 4, which if anybody reads it, they'll know exactly who it is. He was only supposed to be in one scene, and he was just supposed to literally point the characters in a direction and say, that's where you need to go. You're not going to find it here. You need to go there. And I had so much fun writing him that I decided to have him tag along, and he played a major role in not only the rest of the book, but how the book concluded. I'm not sure how I would have finished the book without him. So it's crazy that he started out as a one scene character. I
And
like
that
to
happens. You don't
yeah, it does.
know until you write.
Exactly. And I like to let the story lead me in some ways. You know, when if I get too focused on this has to happen in this scene and it has to end here and then it has to go here, then I don't feel like it has quite the same sort of magic, for better word, in it. So I like to sort of let it go. Let it go again. There it is.
I told you it'd show up a lot. It just it seemed like an overarching theme as well,
Yes.
but I promise you it makes sense. So you're part plotter and part pants. Part
Exactly. Yeah, I'm definitely a hybrid. Yep. Yeah.
and that is awesome. I can't
Yeah.
wait to get past chapter 2 and go further. I'm so happy that you spoke up and I got to find out about your book. Okay. One more question about your personal the way you write. Do you have a favorite place to write?
Um. Well, because I'm still acting, um, I I often find myself traveling for months at a time. Um,
Mhm.
so I have to be flexible. Depends on where I'm staying, where and because I have a 2.5-year-old and we live in New York in a small apartment. Um, when I'm home, I used to be able to just write at the desk and that was fine. I put on headphones and that's my jam. I have my playlists and I just go. But now she's old enough that she's very curious. So
Mhm.
if the computer screen is up, she wants to help work. So which
Yeah.
doesn't always work out well. So a lot of times I actually go to my local public library. And I just there's a area with tables, and I just sit there and put my headphones on there. And the local library staff has gotten to know me. I don't think they have any idea what I'm doing there. They just know that I'm there a lot, and I sit there for a few hours, and I read on my computer, and then I go. So I'm a big fan of
Mhm.
public libraries. Like
Oh yeah.
I think it's one of the last places where nothing's really expected of us. We don't have to pay to be there. We don't have to do anything. There are programs. There's just space and Wi-Fi if that's what you want. You can read books. You can check books out. There's all
Oh
sorts
yeah.
of things to do. So that's a shout out to public libraries because I think they don't get
Oh
enough
yeah.
love. They're still there for us after all this time.
Most definitely. And I think that's my favorite thing about Patty. Patricia Harris, the head of the publishing company,
Mm-hmm.
she lets my kids be part of it. She is publishing 2 of my children's art in this next anthology. She has
That's
put the
amazing.
kids I was babysitting in the blog.
Yeah.
So she doesn't it doesn't matter your age. If you're being creative, your stories, your poetry, or your art matters, and she can find a place for it to show
Yeah.
you are worth it.
Yeah. We all have a story to tell.
Um,
I believe that.
yes,
So, yeah.
and that is like one of my favorite things with you're starting to see how your daughter's making up stories,
Yeah.
and that is like my afternoons now after they get off school. I get to we do homework and then I get to see Dante's stories. I get to see Cassie's art. It's it's going to be amazing as they get older.
Yeah.
So your next book, you have a new book coming out when?
Um, it looks like it'll be the first week in March. Yep.
Okay.
It's a
What is
very
it called?
it's very different. It's called Shallow Water, Deep Lies. Um, and it's a spin-off from book two, down in the Outer Banks
Oh,
of Carolina. Yep. One of the things that happens in that book is we meet the members of a sort of secret society called the Brethren of the Coast, um, which was a real thing. The pirates of the 17th, 18th century actually tried to sort of regulate themselves at one point and created something called the Brethren of the Coast, which was supposed to keep them in check. but they were pirates, so it didn't work out. But in my version, there were still people who wanted to safeguard their place and the people who lived there, and that they had different chapters, for lack of a better word, in various places around, and the Outer Banks would have been one of those places that had people there protecting it. So in my version, the Brethren of the Coast never went away. They just became a secret society. And there have always been people there looking out for the islands and every resident there. And so they make an appearance in book 2, pretty important one. And then I liked the idea of that so much that I decided to spin it off. It's less fantasy and more like action, adventure, mystery. But there will be a thread of fantasy and the paranormal that runs through it over time. But yeah, so I didn't have enough going on. I decided to start another book series. But
oh yeah, and you had me at paranormal. Okay, what is a little bit that happens in the book?
Like I said, it's more of an action thriller. So what happens is first of all, the Brethren of the Coast have been dwindling over time, so they need to find new membership in order to continue. So it starts with them and their search for a new member, and while that's happening, someone discovers a dead body in one of the refuges nearby, and that sends them off on a mystery as to who that person is, how that happened, and it turns out that it ties in surprising ways, events that have happened on the Outer Banks years before and have finally come to the surface again. And it's about the Brethren digging into that and finding out how it happened and what they can do to stop it. And yeah, and then again, because their roots are in piracy, there are lots of legends about Blackbeard on the Outer Banks, because that was basically his backyard. And it's not giving anything away to say that the legend, which is pretty much rooted in truth for the most part at this point, is that when he was killed in battle, they actually cut off his head and put it outside of the town of Hampton in Virginia as a warning to anybody who was thinking about becoming a pirate. But then, truth is weird sometimes, they turned it into a silver-plated punch bowl, which ended up at one of the taverns in colonial Williamsburg, and then disappeared into the hands of collectors. At one point, somebody said it was in Massachusetts at a museum, but that turned out to be a fake. Other people have said it disappeared into the archives at the Smithsonian, like it's still there somewhere. But in my version, Blackbeard never left the Outer Banks, and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
I hope so.
Take us on so many adventures with your characters.
I try. Yeah, that's the point.
I love how all types of folklore, all the types of fae ends up in your stories.
I had so much.
Epic.
Yeah, I had so much fun with them. So, and I still do. I can't wait. I've already started writing book 5 in the first series. So that's going to be sort of on a larger epic scale. All of the places we've been before will play a part in book 5.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Yeah. What is your favorite writing beverage or snack?
Well, since I usually write when I'm home, when I'm at the library, I usually can just drink water. And I don't really eat there. I don't eat a lot when I'm writing. Um, but yeah, water or coffee. those are those are the two.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what is your favorite type of coffee?
Um, I was born in New England. I grew up in Virginia, but I was born in New England. So I'm a Dunkin' guy. Because in New
Okay.
England, Dunkin' is basically this shy of religion. Um,
Mhm.
even before it became a national thing, that was when you went over to visit relatives in New England, you brought Dunkin'. That's what you brought. You brought Dunkin' Donuts. You literally brought the donuts and coffee. So I grew up with it. It's what I know. I'm not fancy.
Oh, I can't find a reason to say anything bad about Dunkin'. Went by Dunkin' here the other day and realized I didn't have enough money to stop, and I was a very sad panda.
Yes, I would be too.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell about your world or your world? Well, it's all one world. It
It
just
is.
spreads over so much.
Yeah, yeah. It's all one world. Even the spin-off series is really still rooted in the same world. So yeah, I guess the one thing I would want to say is that not the whole, but one of the one of the themes that I like to emphasize is that there's space for everyone in the world, and that we all have something to contribute. You might think it's small, but even the smallest contribution can turn into something that changes everyone's lives. So
Oh yeah.
I want everyone to feel like they are full of possibility.
Do you have advice for new writers?
Keep going. Don't. I mean, it's so easy to be distracted, um, and it happens to everybody. But just keep writing it. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time you write it. You don't have to set a final, like a deadline for yourself. Um, just write it, and don't try to do what you think other people want you to do. Write your story. Write the story that you believe in, the one that's inside of you that you want to share. And if it's honest, people will find it. We're not all going to be bestsellers, but that's not really the point. We're sharing bits and pieces of ourselves and hope that it makes someone, like the quote that you posted earlier, that it makes someone else's day better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Your words were just so good I had to share them.
I appreciated that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. There's usually one more question I like. Okay, ice cream. What is your favorite ice cream?
That's another good question. I don't have a big sweet tooth, but because I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, I have more ice cream than I have ever had before in my life. And this is
Yeah.
a very regional flavor. Um, there there are two that I like. I love anything maple flavored. So maple ice
Mhm.
cream, especially from Red's Dairy Freeze in Portland, Maine, is
Ooh.
fantastic. Um, and then there is left field ice cream further north in Maine. Mainers love their ice cream, by the way, which is funny because it's such a
Mhm.
cold state, but they love it. They have a blueberry ice cream that I have a hard time driving past and not stopping to get. It's that good. So I'm going to go with blueberry and maple.
That is awesome. Okay. Um, I guess from here we should probably say goodnight to everybody. And if you'll get me those links, I will make sure I get everything in the matter of up and above.
Okay.
So, okay. Or was there something else you'd like to tell the your readers, new and old, or soon to be authors?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for talking to me today. I
Okay.
had a great time. So thank you for having me on first and foremost.
Thank
Um,
you for thinking of me.
and second, just support authors. Keep reading books It's feels sometimes like it's a dying art, but it's not. Books will always be here. So keep reading, and when you read something you like, let the author know, because it will. I guarantee you, it will make their day. Doesn't matter, if it's Stephen King or the kid in fifth grade who's just learning how to share his stories. It will mean something to them. So,
Oh yeah.
when something you like, let them know, and keep reading books.
Oh yeah. And good night, everybody. I hope you have a great evening.